US President Donald Trump has announced new tariffs on countries including the UK, France and Denmark over their opposition to US control of Greenland. He's announced a 10% import tax on goods from 8 European countries starting in February. He says the tariff would rise to 25% in June if a deal to reach what he's called the complete and total purchase of Greenland is not achieved. Niels Fastrup is an investigative journalist at Denmark's public broadcaster DR. He says they have not been threatened by direct military action in this way since World War II.
Basically, a few hours ago, President Trump announced that he would put on extra 10% tariffs on Denmark and Denmark's European allies, all the countries that right now are in the process of deploying troops to Greenland. And also that if Denmark and the rest of the European countries are not willing to give him Greenland before June or later this year, he will put on an additional 15% tariff, so bringing the total up to 25% tariffs in all, as like an kind of economic coercion or punishment on Denmark and Denmark's European allies.
What impact will tariffs or even the threat of tariffs have? Is that an effective threat in your view?
No, I don't think it will be actually, because the situation has been developing now for several months and it's been escalating almost day by day. And right now the situation is that all the European countries within the European Union and also including the UK here in Europe are pretty united in this. So I don't think that this will actually persuade Denmark or force Denmark to do anything in terms of Greenland, other than it will escalate the situation even further.
United even to the point of European military personnel arriving in Greenland, deploying there at Denmark's request. What message is that sending, and what's the significance of that presence?
Well, I think it's sending a hugely powerful message to the US, namely that as we speak right now, military transport aircraft are deploying European troops, Arctic elite forces, Alpine hunters from Germany and France. All of these military troops, including naval assets as well as Air Force assets, are in the process hour by hour of being deployed to Greenland in order to send a very powerful signal to Russia and China, but also to the US, that Greenland is part of the Kingdom of Denmark, and the Kingdom of Denmark is part of Europe and it's part of NATO, and that that Denmark will not bow to on any kind of pressure that comes from the US or other great powers globally.
It's a strong message, but is it strong enough to impact Donald Trump?
Obviously, I mean, that's too early to say. We will have to see what happens in the coming days and weeks. But it's important to understand that right now, the troops that we see right now being deployed to Greenland is only like the beginning of it. According to my sources, the information that we have at DR, additional troops are on the way in the coming days and weeks and months to Greenland. And basically, all in all, this is a pretty extensive, significant military operation in order to put a huge number of European troops into Greenland.
US President Donald Trump says that Greenland is vital to US national security. Now, the US is already able to bring as many troops as it wants to Greenland. So what difference would US control actually make to their national security?
Well, according to the experts that I talked to, it basically won't have any difference, because if the US wants to, say, establish more bases in Greenland or build harbors or ports or new airfields, or if it wants to put additional combat troops or whatever, it can do that. It would have to consult with the Greenlandic government as well as the Danish government. But basically, they are free to do that if they wish to do that.
Now, thousands of people have been rallying outside the US Embassy in Copenhagen, calling on Mr. Trump to abandon this ambition. From your reporting, from who you've been speaking to, What's your sense of the general feeling on the ground from people in the street on this?
Well, I mean, the people in Greenland, for obvious reasons, are under an enormous pressure, and you can hear lots of stories coming from families living in Greenland that small children are unable to sleep at night because they are afraid what will happen. And also here in Denmark, a lot of people, are really concerned about this because this is probably the first, or not probably, this is the first time since World War II, basically, for 80 years that people living in Denmark and Greenland especially have been put under this kind of threat of direct military action taken against us. So this is an extraordinary situation.